More details on our new high-tech cloned squats today. Let's take a look at a few details as to the weapons they're going to be carrying into battle. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today Games Workshop have previewed a few more details for the new squat release. So far we've had just a couple of teasers of the actual models and the guns that they're carrying, but now we actually know the names of a fair few of the bits of technology that they'll be porting into battle. A bit of lore as to how they fit in with the race's history, and a few quite cool details on things like ion weapons, and a whole bunch of little schematic picture things that show what looks like the majority of their infantry portable arsenal. No more outright in-game rules yet, sadly, though I think just by knowing the names of the weapons and what they're based on, you can draw a few inferences. First up, we got a little bit of information as to how their armaments actually work. The Votann ancestor cores themselves, basically their supercomputer AI things that they worship/build their society around, as well as containing all sorts of logic systems for things like battle tactics and mining and things. They also contain a whole bunch of pretty precious STCs dating from humanity's past. The weapons that the current kin from the Leagues of Votann carry into battle are basically just going to be superior and highly crafted versions of Imperial technology. So basically imagine things like las weapons, bolt weapons, and the various other normal weapon families, but based on ancient and perhaps even superior designs, and then actually developed and improved over the course of the millennia. So at least according to the article, they basically work better and hit harder than most Imperial guns. I guess that was probably to be expected to an extent. If you were going to introduce a high-tech faction of Space Dwarves into 40k, you would expect their weapons would hit very, very hard indeed. I would bear in mind though, with points being a thing and even individual weapon characteristics not really mattering all that much, just because something might have some ridiculous stats on paper doesn't necessarily mean it's actually going to be great in game. For example, we recently had the new Tyrannid Termagants with their flesh borers. People weren't really all that impressed that they went to strength 5 AP-1, which did seem a bit excessive to be fair, but it actually turns out that they're really quite tame in game, just due to the points that they cost and their fragility. Maybe that's a bit of a side case, just with comparing the raw stats to other things in 40k, but I would just ask the Necron players if having the lore about having some of the best weapons in the galaxy actually always translates onto the tabletop. In any case, it isn't just the guns that are translated, apparently there's going to be a good mix of ranged and melee weaponry, though I do kind of feel from the previews and lore snippets that we've had so far that they might be a faction that slightly prefers range over melee, even if it is quite close range stuff. As for their technology being improved, apparently they don't improve things very quickly, not like the likes of the Tau, but I guess as a presumably quite long-lived race, they can tinker with things over the millennia. They've got engineers that they call Brockiers, which I'm going to guess is probably a reference to something in a different language. If anyone knows what that's trying to allude to, let me know down in the comments. And apparently they use a technology called anvil terminals, which is a slightly weird little play on words there, and use those to direct auto foundries to make them the things that they need. It kind of sounds a little bit similar to their whole clone thing that they have going on. Very much designed weapons manufactured at the whims of the individual creators, which I sort of feel sounds kind of similar to 3D printing. I'm sure bigging up 3D printing was exactly what Games Workshop was going for. Perhaps one of the single most interesting snippets of information from the article was the confirmation about ion weapons, both the fact that the Hearthkin warrior that we saw previewed is indeed carrying an ion gun, and also that they basically are keeping that little snippet about lore with the Tau acquiring their ion weapons from Space Dwarves of some sort. Now, just literally from the appearance of the gun, as soon as I did see that, I did suspect that it might be an ion weapon. It at least superficially resembles the Tau stuff. The barrel certainly looks a similar shape, and that little circular bit towards the stock of the gun, that also looks very, very Tau to me. Apparently the weapon's going to be called an Ion Blaster, and I think it's certainly possible that the Ion Blaster might not actually be the base loadout for the squad, it might be a special weapon within it. I guess we'll have to wait and see whether or not we see entire squads of these guys carrying this, and whether or not the rest of the squad are mainly carrying around bolt weapons or something. The interesting bit of Tau lore is that the Tau were apparently gifted the ion weapons by the Demiurge, one of the alien races that basically superficially resembled squats, but really we don't have all that much lore about them whatsoever. So we don't know whether they're an offshoot of the Leagues of Votann, some squats of old, or whether they fit in some other and more complex way into the whole story. I think it kind of makes sense to keep that bit of lore though. This is just one little thing that might help ease them into the setting, even if it's going to be a bit weird that they haven't really had any interactions with the other races in the lore up to now. Otherwise, we've got a couple of banks of weapon schematics. It seems for their main small arms we've got that ion blaster, an autok pattern bolter, a high las auto rifle, and a bolt shotgun. Pretty much without exception, they all look like really big, meaty, short-barreled and chunky weapons. That's perhaps what makes me think so much that they're going to be fairly short-ranged and powerful, as opposed to obliterating their foe from half the board away. Out of the look of these, my guess might be that the autok pattern bolter might well be the default armament of the squad. That certainly doesn't look like it to be a special weapon seated in or anything, so maybe that's what most of them might be armed with, and then the others might be upgrades. I guess there might be options for equipping a decent chunk of the squad either with the high las auto rifles or the ion blasters though. We'll have to wait and see. We have seen that bolt shotgun before already. That was the one that was carried by that Hernkin Pioneer, the one on the slightly weird grav trike. Otherwise, we've also got a couple of pistols, which I suspect will be present on the Sergeant models. There's one called a bolt revolver, seeming like a bit of a magnum version of a bolt pistol, and that vulcanite disintegrator looks very similar to Volkite technology. I don't know whether it might have some slightly different special rules on that extended name. I'm going to guess that there's a pretty reasonable chance that it keeps the auto wounds on sixes thing though. Otherwise, we've got some heavy and plasma weapons as well. It looks like they're portable squad heavy weapons as opposed to things that you'd mount on vehicles, as they all have grips on them. I'd be kind of surprised if we don't see both of these as options in that main Hearthkin Warrior box, maybe in a similar sort of theme to a tactical squad. These ones are a Graviton Blast Cannon. Graviton weapons were a feature of Heresy, though they now have grav guns in 40k, and something called an SP Conversion Beamer, probably going to be doing more damage the further away the target is, like the current conversion beamers that are rarely mounted in 40k. Then, maybe in a bit more confirmation of one that we'd already seen, they do have plasma technology as well, Eticarn plasma guns and plasma pistols, the pistol we've already seen on this teaser image out of the first reveal trailer. And I must admit the plasma gun does look just a little bit funny to me. I like the way that that's taking the short and robust thing to an absolute maximum. It's almost as fast as it is long. Finally, no picture of the melee weapons other than that power fist pictured in that previous preview, but apparently they're going to be having plasma field blade technology and concussion weapons with mass drivers such as hammers or maces. In any case, I think it's a fun little update. Kind of a shame that we haven't seen any stats or rules or anything like that, but I think out of virtually any of Games Workshop's previews, I have been finding these a bit more interesting. There's nothing like finding out about an entire 40k race reimagined for the first time. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, particularly if you think I've missed anything important here, or I've missed any interesting implications. Feel free to subscribe to Allspecs Tactics, where I'll certainly keep any news of the Squats release coming, and I'll look forward to reviewing the Codex once it's out. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention one way in which you can help support, and that's my Element Games affiliate link, which is down in the video description. If you happen to live in the UK, Element Games is a decent discount retailer. They give 10 to 20% off Games Workshop's models, so it can be a pretty reasonable way to save a bit compared with buying directly from Games Workshop. If you click the link in the video description before buying anything, a small amount goes to help support Allspecs Tactics, and it doesn't cost you any more whatsoever. Can just be a way to help support the channel if you were thinking about picking up something anyway. For people over in the USA, there is also an Amazon link down below as well. Again, that works in much the same way. Click the link, buy literally anything off Amazon, and a small amount goes to help support the channel. A massive thank you to you guys who have been using those. It really is a big help. In any case, an enormous thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.